Oa, the Spirit Walker. Whenever the moon rises into a wintry sky, round and red as blood, the spirit walkers of the Freljord know that another of their kind has been born into the world. One attuned to the wilds and the land, one who walks within and beside the spirit that best matches the shape of their heart. On the night of Oa's birth, there was nothing in the crimson moon that suggested anything different than that. Nothing that would suggest Oa was already the most powerful walker to ever live. Every being has spirit, whether person or beast, plant or animal, dead or alive or deathless. But unlike his brethren, Oa's power of spiritual connection was not limited to one type of spirit, he could hear them all. The needs and wants of everything around him constantly flooded his mind, making it impossible to hear anything above their roar. His parents did not know how to help him. Their war mother sent for other spirit walkers to train the boy, but each said the same thing: spirit walker training focused on opening oneself up, not closing oneself off. The first time Oa tapped into his powers with purpose was the night the Frostguard came for him. Young Oa, terrified, hid in the forest. He did not expect to feel the life ripped from everyone. His entire tribe, slaughtered in an instant. Howling with sadness and rage, Oa took power from the spirits of the forest. With a swipe of his claws and a beating of his wings, he brought the mountain down on the Frostguard. Alone, grieving, and overwhelmed, Oa wandered the wastes for years, doing what he had to in order to survive. He did not interact with humans again until he landed the killing blow on a wild claw that was troubling a winter's claw hunting party. Impressed, they brought Oa back to camp. War Mother Hedgian sent him to be trained in the ways of war alongside her daughter Kalkia. The wild boy showed the lonely daughter how to live in the wild, and she showed him how to live among people. Soon, the winter's claw began to almost feel like a home. But that changed when a pack of starved and diseased Rhymefang wolves skulked close to the camp. Oa lost himself in the fog of the pack's madness and hunger, attacking and nearly killing a child. It took Kalkia and her mother's true ice to stop Oa. After the wolves had all been slain, Hedgian banished Oa from the winter's claw. Oa returned to the mountains, far from those he could hurt. Kalkia would visit whenever she could get away until she was eventually called upon to lead her tribe. She joyfully lifted Oa's banishment, but he refused to return. He still had no control over the spirits whose wants and needs howled inside his mind, but swore he would always be there to protect Kalkia and the people she loved. That was the last time they saw one another. Everything changed when a foreign monk sought him out, saying he had come to train with the spirit walkers so that he may learn how to subdue the dragon spirit that burned within him. Oa refused, but the monk challenged Oa for the right to train with him. They fought to their limits, but in the end, neither won. The monk introduced himself as Lee Sin, and said that this battle had shown him they both had much to learn. He invited Oa to train in his homeland of Ionia. With nothing left to tie him to the Freljord, Oa agreed. The two men grew close during their journey, taking time each day to spar together and to speak of the spirits, but when they finally arrived at Hirana Monastery, they found it besieged by Noxian invaders. Calling upon the spirits of Ionia, Oa leapt into the fray. After their victory, the two men asked the abbot for guidance and how to learn control. The abbot told them that self-mastery had no guaranteed end, but agreed to train them both. For the first time, Oa's mind was quiet enough for him to hear his own thoughts. He and Lee trained together to master the spirits within and beside them. With new knowledge and understanding, Oa was able to help Lee and his dragon find balance with one another. And through this endeavor, Oa came to understand that harmony and interdependence created a state of balance in Ionia. In contrast, balance in the Freljord was based on a sense of struggle and conflict, of growth and change, where the fight to survive against an uncaring and dangerous environment lived deep in the soul of every Freljordian. After several years, Oa's powers plateaued. He was faced with the choice to stay and train in Ionia, or return to the struggle of his homeland where he could continue his growth. In the end, the choice was obvious. Lee gave Oa one of his blindfolds to keep with him, a reminder of his commitment to self-mastery, and asked for a promise that, Once Oa had achieved what he was looking for in the Freljord, he would return the blindfold to Lee in person. Oa wrapped the blindfold around his hand before setting off across the world once again to take up the mantle of Spirit Walker. A new conflict between an Avarosan and Winter's Claw Warmother greeted Oa upon his return to the Freljord. The Avarosan wanted to unite the people of the Freljord under a single banner, putting an end to their struggles. Oa understood that such an action would harm the spirit of the land, and so he decided to offer counsel to the other side, the Winter's Claw. It was Kalkia's headstrong daughter Sejuani who received him, and he could feel her need for guidance. The young woman accepted Oa's help, but Sejuani's trust was hard-won, for she had grown up hearing tales of the Spirit Walker and his bloodlust. Oa came to appreciate Sejuani's drive and cleverness, though her ruthlessness worried him. Sejuani saw wisdom and a warrior's heart in Oa, but his frequent absences grated her nerves. In time, they came to view one another like family, a surrogate oath-father and daughter, though they would never say it aloud. Before long, the other Spirit Walkers summoned Oa down to the south. But fate intervened when he met a strange old woman in an enormous coat. She asked for his help with several impossible tasks that he inevitably failed. Entertained by his attempts, she rewarded his efforts with bread so salty that he choked, and water so cold that his veins turned to ice. The old woman laughed at his reaction and shrugged off her coat, and the spiritual power hit Oa like an avalanche. He passed out, and woke alone. But he could feel something had changed within him, a new power had awakened. He didn't realize it, but the Seal Sister, in one of her many disguises, had tested Oa and given him her blessing. Still unnerved by this odd encounter, Oa joined his brethren in the south and listened as they told him of a strange spiritual shift they had each felt. They feared the Freljord was dying, the spirits of the land itself crumbling from within. Oa believed that it was the Avarosans, in their efforts to unite the Freljord, that was causing this pain. He told the other Spirit Walkers as much, and asked them to fight against the Avarosan advance alongside the Winter's Claw. Many were skeptical, but others, afraid that Oa might be right, agreed. With his new spiritual power flowing within him, Oa raced back to the Winter's Claw to help end this existential threat to the Freljord once and for all.